I'm going to say up front that this review contains no spoilers on account of there's really nothing to spoil, apart from a beloved fucking franchise, that is. Dynamite Comics, by hiring didactic hackbag extraordinaire Simon Spurrier to write a pulp icon it's apparent he knows less than a fucking thing about, now bears the dubious distinction of having published the single worst Shadow comic ever produced, and for a character who in the 60s, courtesy of Archie, was transmogrified into a ginger flying fuckbag and a purple spandex unitard replete with head condom, that says something, bitch. Worse still, this represents one of the most purposefully missed opportunities to capitalize and revivify a decades-old license in the history of the comic book medium. We live in a society in the midst of an individualist zeitgeist, bridling at tales of galling-ass gray morality, repulsed by 8 years being motherfucked by moral relativity and omnipresent hand-wringing, and here you have an unbending, unapologetic agent of inviolate retribution, a maven of moral objectivism, having primed readers for the plunge with a well-received Batman the Shadow crossover. The time was now to ride that crest to this new societal paradigm, and instead, we were given the latest and perhaps even the single worst example of the ongoing SJW circle jerk befouling and beshitting our beloved comic book industry. Now, I knew we were in for some serious titty fucking trouble when I read the initial synopsis featuring buttloads of buzzwords called for the pages of IO9 and Jezebel, and upon investigating the Twitter feed of scribe Simon Spurrier, noted it read like a fucking CNN news roll. This fucker is fake news made flesh, but even I could not conceive how profoundly they'd fuck it up. How badly, you ask? Well, how about the central goddamn philosophy that informs the character, for starters? Oh, just a little thing like that. And with respect to Rageaholics Abroad, this is something like the second writer in a row to hail from Mother England that didn't have a merry fuck of a clue what this character stood for, or worse, knew perfectly well and distorted it anyway in the middle of a culture shift motherfucking parched for stories precisely like The Shadow. Garth Ennis's run had its moments, but in the end, he was 40's Punisher. What separates The Shadow from the skull-chested murder machine in question is that while Frank just offs the guy and he's done with it, only occasionally engineering a more elaborate form of retribution, The Shadow has a philosophy behind what he does. Despite predating the political writings of Ayn Rand by several years, this character, by any reasonable metric, is objectivist. Not because I say he is, because the pulps say he is. A character who recruits agents not as a manifestation of some socialist co-op, but as a means to their personal retribution. Listen to him talk to Harry Vincent in the first Shadow pulp. Fuck! They recreated the dialogue in the Shadow film!
I've saved your life, Roy Tam. It now belongs to me.
It does?
You'll become one of my agents. Like dozens of others all over the world.
Could I ask my wife about this?
No!
Belongs to me, motherfucker. He ain't asking. He's not downloading the consent app. He's saying either sign up or you can suit up for some pine pajamas. A character with a sacrosanct, utterly binary morality, which once crossed is a guaranteed death sentence. The Shadow is a walking capital punishment. Writer Simon Spurrier, and please note that I use the term writer here in a context looser than Pam Anderson's pussy on muscle relaxers, rather tellingly, through his very Freudian surrogate, a rainbow-haired Latina hagbag whose name I've long since forgotten, repeatedly refers to the Shadow as, and I quote, a monster. Mistake fucking one, assface. If your writer believes your titular character, arguably the most morally unambiguous white hat wunderkind in contemporary comics, is a monster for executing criminals and adhering to an unbending binary morality, you hired the wrong motherfucker! I should mention further that Simon Spurrier was signed to write The Shadow at the bald-faced behest of Garth Ennis, the other UK Shadow writer we've already established possessed not the faintest flickerings of a fucking clue about. Giddily copping to the fact that he's turned this storied character not only into a vessel for his own, private politics, but frankly, politics in direct opposition to everything the character stands for. I mean, feel free to read the article, but please do so with ad block enabled unless you're ready to be kept up at night by the fact that you provided that deep-fried dipshit Rich Johnston an undeserved fucking income. Cy Spurrier states, and I quote, I toyed with the idea, for want of a better word, of making a straight Shadow story. That's talentless turbo hackies for fucking readable, by the by. I decided instead to push it, to do something insanely challenging, something intricately structured, something dripping with meaning, and by meaning you mean an outdated-ass gray ponytail black turtleneck titwank that was tired as fuck in the 60s and ain't getting any younger now, princess. Not that this should come as a surprise, as even an errant glance at the fucknuts Twitter feed reads like the LSD-fueled fever dream of Karl Marx and fucking Daria, the precise variety of perma-90s knuckle-dragon thunderdunce that'd splatter paint fetus blood across his doorframe if he thought it'd ward off the ghost of Winston Churchill. That Dynamite Comics doesn't comprehend their mistake is obvious from their editor-in-chief's reaction to its glacial reception. Editor Joseph Ryband, you see, once belonged to the Shadow Knows community on Facebook, a large and dedicated fan community devoted to the Dark Avenger, having been invited by Batman writer and film producer Michael Uslan. But upon witnessing the deservedly declamatory reviews for the SJW Shadow #1, he not only bugged the fuck out of the Facebook group, he unfriended everyone associated with it, and all over this piece of shit! Easily the worst comic to ever bear the byline of the Shadow! But hey, at least the art is dated dog shit, perspective flatter than Miley Cyrus's saggy tits, janky-ass Voldo anatomy, and an inexorable obsession with lighting characters from the wrong fucking side. I've seen aspiring artists at conventions that were turned away by Brian Michael Bendis, who himself couldn't draw bathwater, by the by, that outstripped this distilled essence of suck-ass in every conceivable respect. And hey, nice Photoshop job on that medical waste bag logo there, Caravaggio. Even the Windows paperclip is calling you a fucking hack. And just one fairy fuck is the Shadow, who has no less than 2 agents that happen to hold medical degrees, flipping the fuck out at a free clinic so Bunifa can bandage his boner. The only time the Shadow's ever been seriously injured, he went into hiding like an actual vigilante and let his agents do the shitbag wasting in the meantime. But not to worry, Sharifa Sarkeesian is here to identify who the flambéed fuckwad occupying the hospital bunk before her truly is. How, you ask? Brace for this, folks. She readily discerns that the man burnt to a crisp before her is in fact the Shadow, because she recognizes his, and I quote, old man wiener! End fucking quote! She IDs his dong, shit dick! Never mind turning in his grave. Walter Gibson 3 somersaults into a Cirque du Soleil routine in that motherfucker. I can say without exaggeration that The Shadow Volume 4 from Dynamite Comics is the single worst Shadow comic ever published, and for a character that Archie turned into a redheaded spandex-clad cunt in a skull condom, that's a profound statement indeed. At one point in the story, Tina the Tumblr twink opines, after watching a subtle as cyanide caricature of Donald Trump on the news, by the by, you know what I think? The world got sick. We got so hung up on all these crazy villains with their over-the-top schemes, so absorbed by our flashy icons and their meaningless struggles, that we didn't stop to check who was writing the story.
You have to go back.
Couldn't agree more, Simon Spurrier, because in the grand macrocosm of propagandist piss-takery, allowing a leering leftist ideologue like yourself to write and inculcate the world's first objectivist superhero, a character who inspired everyone from V for Vendetta, to Rorschach, to the original Steve Ditko incarnation of The Question, to the leaning tower of libertarianism, Mr. fucking A, in a feverish fucknado of illogical proselytic horseshit, to have him pause mid-shot to lecture school shooters on their white privilege? School shooters, I'd add, Simon Spurrier admitted in the same interview, were a blatant stand-in for, and I once again quote, a frighteningly huge contingent of the Western world, and on a slightly closer to home level, the guiding toxicity behind a scary majority of comic book discourse online. Spurrier, sweetie, eat my ass with a fucking salad fork, you actively chundering, faux intellectual fucknob. This is a new low, even for the B-team bitches at Dynamite. Dynamite, you will never get another $1 from my snarky ass. And after one glance at the Shadow fan community on Facebook and elsewhere, I doubt I'm a fucking loan. Good luck quietly canceling this steaming sewage souffle in 5 months and pretending it was always intended as a miniseries. Don't bother keeping the negatives, princess. Just let it go. This comic is a fucking affront. I'm Razor Fist. Fuck this shit.
Wait for it. Here it comes. Almost there.